I think one would be credibility, that we are always, as Black principals, having to rise to a level of excellence that others may not have to who are not Black. And so we are definitely um, going to come to any meeting or any kind of presentation prepared with excellence. But that yardstick is not usually bestowed upon others. I think another issue for me is just having spent most of my career in special education to continue to see the rise of Black and African American students being uh, funneled into special education at disproportionate numbers than any other race continues to just really tug at my heart. And I got in this work here in Fresno Unified to be an advocate and a conduit for change in that overrepresentation of Black children in special education. Mm-hmm. Another, not issue, but just the norm is that as an African American principal, I'm usually the diversity index in the room. And so I will get the interview for jobs that I know that I'm well qualified for, but typically education can be very nepotistic. And so they already have somebody in mind. But because I am African American, I am the diversity index in that pool of hiring or applicants. And so you just kind of know it when you show up for the interview in person and they look at you like, oh, we didn't know, or, oh yeah, thank you for playing and thank you for being here. There's not enough of us actually at the top. There's not enough African American principals at the top. And I attribute that to just limited opportunities as an African American administrator to reach higher levels within education or within administration, because we're not at the table to make those decisions. And that's huge for not just here in this district, but across the nation. And so I see that also as something that we could really work to do a better job of considering the outcomes of our students nationally. It's going to take probably a multifaceted approach. The yardstick for educational leadership still is embedded and deeply rooted in whiteness. And because it is, there can be a mismatch or a cultural misunderstanding between the goals of an African American leader and the goals of the district or those who are at the table. And so it's really important for districts to invest in African American teachers and those in education to build a pool from within. So investing in your resources now in your African American employees to go and be successful in the teaching pipeline, to mentor them through that process, but also to ensure that their voice is not lost, that they are heard and that they are valued in the process, so that there is a match between who is being mentored and who is the mentee in the process. Besides investing in our own, I also think that we need to ensure that there is an equity lens that others are looking through the interview process, through the screening process, through the hiring process, and then in the last final round of interviews, that we are really selecting educators that are representative of the community that they will serve. As our country becomes more brown, the yardstick of whiteness continues to prevail and be pervasive across all of our policies and all of our practices in the hiring process. And we have to undo that and dismantle that so that it's more equitable for all. You know, I have studied this for a long time, And it really comes down to the hearts and the minds of the people that are educating the students. And unfortunately, because of some stereotypical things that are pervasive in our country around Black and Brown children, what they can and cannot do, their value, right? There's a value associated with skin color in this country, that if a child needs additional support, they don't get it. And a lot of times it is targeted at African American males. And that starts very early. The paper trail starts very early in their lives in education. And it just snowballs into something that either leads them to be looked at as, a student who cannot achieve, or someone who is demonized as not being worthy of the support through value systems. But also, when it comes to behavior, they are more likely to be suspended, expelled, and those things. And that also creates a paper trail, and as we've known in the literature, a pipeline straight to prison, right? From special education right into the prison system. And so really, a lot of administrators don't know that special education is a service. It's not a place. It's just like a cable TV. You order a service. It's a service that's supposed to come alongside their regular education. But in the hearts and minds of many folks, the students can't. And when they come from a lens that the students can't, they write a one-page book that say these students can't, the end. They close the book and they refer them to special education. And then within the profession, there's not a lot of support. And so within 2 to 5 years, brand new special education teachers are gone. And so you have these push and pull factors that are keeping our kids either tied to this, inevitable black hole called special education, not ever really getting the service that they need, or when they do get the services, there, because of budget cuts and things like that, it's not enough. But really and truly, every child in special education, their first right is in the general education setting. So why we continue to segregate kids with average IQs does not make sense. If kids have cognitive issues that need to be addressed, then the school and the district can remove them from that setting to support that need. But the majority of the kids who are receiving special education have average or above average IQs. It is my motivation. It's my passion. It absolutely drives. It's like breathing at this point. I really want to, and when I am in different arenas and different meetings, I bring to bear just, how we can do a better job for our students without further harming them. And we shouldn't be in the business of harming kids. But unfortunately, that's what happens, especially with our Black male children. My greatest reward is just supporting the kids that are around me and watching kids grow and thrive and getting them to their greatest level of independence that we absolutely can. It's helping them understand that they don't have to be workers, that they can be entrepreneurs, right? It really is the success of the kids that drives everything that I do. People will tell you I'm a sucker for kids. Anything for kids, I'm there. And also to throw the rope back and pull along others to really support them in, you can do this, you can become a teacher, you can go to your next level of leadership, and you can be as successful as your mind goes, right? But it's hard to do that when we're not trained to be teachers. We're not thought of as being worthy of being in the educational profession. And so I enjoy the fact that I am a role model, but I'm also a mentor. And so I mentor other African American classified, certificated staff, what is your next level of leadership that you would like to engage in, and really help bring them alongside in whatever way that I can support them. And sometimes it's a letter of recommendation. Sometimes it's one-on-one. We need to have a keeping it real talk about what's happening on the job. But it's good to know that I have that outlet in the African American Principals United group, but also that others that I mentor have that in me as well. So when they have concerns or things like that on the job, or they've been in an interview and they were like, I was there, I was the only African American there. I said, yeah, that's typical. It may be a shock to them, but I'm like, yeah, that's been my experience in education, right, in human resources. But how do we navigate the water so that you're successful? Yeah. We do it for each other, but we also learn from one another, and then we come alongside each other. And so, if they need help, who do you need? I can come to your site. What do you need? They'll come to my site. And so we really do, and we are really in the business of making sure that not that we are successful, but that others around us that we can impact and leverage our knowledge and our resources to help them come alongside and be successful as well, regardless of their position. I would say I would say yes and no. I would say yes in the sense that, and I'm going to go back to my training days when I was a university professor. In our teacher education programs, there are typically maybe one or two African American students in a group of 30, let's just say, right? And if that instructor does not come or present or allow dialogue from a lens of equity, the conversations will continue to be rooted in whiteness. And that is a problem because the people in the room are typically white, and they can identify with that instructor. But the people who are Black and brown in the classroom have a different view often. That view is either put forward or it's silenced based on who's instructing those who are becoming teachers, so teacher educators. And so I feel like in some sense and in some arenas, I am seen as a know-it-all. I have been told to my face that I am, the exact word was intimidating. Because I know the law, I'm a student of the law, I know what's supposed to happen, those kinds of things, and I'm not going to walk by certain things. But at the same time, in other arenas, depending on where I'm at, the issue becomes that I shouldn't say anything because the conversation is already been signed, sealed, and delivered by someone who is probably less credible, less experienced, or has a position, right? That positionality becomes important. They are above me. They know less than I do and could care less. That's a hard place to be in. And so you have to learn how to navigate the waters to be respectful, but also do the job that your heart is driving you to do and what led me to this profession. And that can cause some internal conflict that then, I deal with and we all deal with when we come upon those issues. But so in some arenas you're valued and some you're not, and some you're silenced.